This is when we started the learning communities a long time ago. These are the learning communities that are on there, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but you can see some of the different agencies that have started to build these learning communities. Learning communities are a great way to communicate back and forth. When we first started them, I was thinking about using our LMS, which is your WebCT, and using it as a method of just communicating with people in the distance. So building basically a community. And so I was thinking of it more from a classroom site. So if you wanted your classroom to have a community with somebody in Vietnam, you could actually contact that teacher in Vietnam. We could put the two of them together, and you could have discussion boards, email system, a bulletin board system, a method to share pictures back and forth. You have all the different tools that come with our learning management system, and you'd be able to join those two classes, and you could actually build a community between those two classes. The neat thing is they don't even have to speak the same language, because Alta Vista and some of the other ones out there have translation tools that we put right into a communication tool, so they can write messages back and forth to each other in their own language and have them translated well enough that you can understand what that person is saying. So it's possible to build these different communication tools through the technology and bring the world into your classroom, which is really neat. That's one of the coolest things about the cyber school, is that when you talk about a high school classroom, you have students who are from Holy Cross, from Edith, from Australia sometimes, from down the street in Waka, from up in Delisle. You'll have these students from all different walks of life and all different places, all communicating together in the same community. And that is a really neat learning environment for them. The other neat learning environment is that you combine different ages. One of the things that happened in the student lounge a few years back, I think it was before Ryan's time, a grade 9 student was in our chat room and asked a 25-year-old parent of 2 what she was wearing, which went over really well in our chat room, and to which we had a little discussion with him. But this 25-year-old woman explained to him how that was insulting to a woman. You don't ask them what they're wearing, and you don't do that type of stuff inside a school. And so there was this discussion that happened, and before I even got on there to discipline this child, this 25-year-old woman took a strip off him. There was no way he was doing it again. And we did talk to him, but it was really interesting to see that group of people conversing together. In the past, we've also had things that are called peer tutors in our community. The peer tutors are the students who recognize the cyber school as a school, and they maintain the school atmosphere within the cyber school. So they go into the chat rooms. They make sure that the discussion boards are fairly clean. When someone goes in there and flames someone, for those of you that don't know what that means just yelling at someone in upper cases and saying something rude or derogatory towards this person, someone else will tell them that's inappropriate to use within the cyber school. And so it's a really neat environment that way, because the students have taken ownership for it. One of my biggest fears when I started the cyber school is that we were going to create something that wasn't personable, that wasn't person-based. And my wife still has an issue with this, because there's a whole pile of people that I've met online and I know really well, but I've never met. She has a problem getting her head around that. And I can understand that totally, because if you don't spend as much time on the World Wide Web, it's really hard to understand how these kids can spend hours and hours on Facebook, hours and hours in a chat room, hours and hours on MySpace, and still feel like they've got friends all over the place, and feel like they know those people. That's one of the quotes that they had up there. 1 in 8 people are now getting married to people they meet on the internet. That's the type of students that we have coming up. It's a scary environment. The other one that came up the other day is on MySpace. There's more people on MySpace than, I forget which country it was, let's say Germany. There's more people on MySpace than on Germany. The majority of the people on MySpace are between 14 and 17 years of age. Is that a concern? In my mind, that's a major concern. We have 14 to 17-year-olds in a country all by themselves. You ever said Lord of the Flies? Like, that's a scary environment. But that's what they're dealing with. And one of the things that we have to be very careful of in our teachings is that we don't exclude this stuff from our classroom. Because, here's my soapbox. We can't exclude that, because the students, when they go home, this is the environment that they're talking about. One of the quotes that I ran across the other day was that it's not fair for an educational system to send the students home to go in the shark-infested waters of the internet without any training and without any education. But if that's what we do, that's a scary proposition. Cell phones. One of one of the gentlemen from Google that I ran into the other day said he was in a classroom in Japan. The students walked in with their cell phone, with their camera. They walked up to the desk and they took a picture of this little icon that the teacher had on their desk. That downloaded then to their cell phone all the information they needed for that class that day. All the notes, all the test material that's coming up, all the announcements for the day, all came into their cell phone with a single click of the button. They then went and sat down, and he said, the teacher at the front said, we're now going to go to Egypt. Every single one of those students held up their smartphone, went to the website that they got from clicking on that, and they saw a virtual image of Egypt, the pyramids. And the teacher said, now look to your left, and they all went like this, and they saw what was to their left. And then they said, now walk forward. And they pressed the enter button, and they went a little bit closer, and then they went inside one of the pyramids. That's the way they did their lesson. The other neat thing that he was talking about was the students who didn't punch in, the teacher went onto the computer, tracked them down. Well, that kid's in the mall. That kid's over here because of the GPS system in their phone. Scary, yeah, but it's coming down the pipes. As the internet becomes more user-friendly and some of the tools that are coming down the pipes, a cell phone in some countries is the only computer that students have. It is possible to teach the whole cyber school on that 3.5-inch by 4-inch screen. All the gaming products that are out there have a faster processor than most of the computers that we have in our schools. And we're banning, I talked to a teacher down in the States who teaches his whole class on the PSP. And then I said, what happens if the students are playing games instead of listening to me? I said, that's my fault, I'm not interesting enough. Interesting concept. Okay, sorry, got on my soapbox there.